What's up, Woodworking Nation, and welcome back to Armor God Woodworks. We're back here in the final assembly room. Once the cabinets reach this area, they're ready to go out the big roll-up door, and they're ready to go be taken on the job and installed. So today what we're doing is we're putting on the drawer fronts and hanging doors. So the reason I wanted to make this video today is to show you how we do this. This may not be how you do this, this is how we do this. We're doing this a little bit different than we normally do. I've got a jig set up that I've built for 1/2-inch overlay doors and drawer fronts. But what we're doing today, these are 1.25-inch overlay. Now we do have some 1/2-inch overlay, and we got some 7/8 overlay. We got some 1-inch, but the standard that we're using for our hinges on most of them are 1.25 inch. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind whenever you're doing this and you're doing your overlays and people are wanting to keep these kind of tight together, they want this drawer front and this drawer front to be close together. When I say close together, I'm talking about 1/4 inch. I don't typically like to get them any closer than that because then you don't have a whole lot of room if you need to make any adjustments or anything like that. You really kind of, cutting it a little bit too close there. So I really like 1/4 inch is about as close as I like to get it, and because you're going to have all kinds, there's going to be variations between each one. If you like all these right here, I got 6 drawer fronts on this one, plus I've got a false right here, and I got a door, so all this stuff has got to line up. They're all not going to be exactly the same. I get all my doors manufactured off site. If I need to make adjustments, I can. But typically they come in and they might just be like a 30-second more or less, and so you have to make some few adjustments on site right here at the shop. You want to do all this stuff in the shop. As much stuff as you can do in your shop with cabinets, that's what you want to do. You don't want to be out there on the job site trying to do all this, because you're going to end up with something, you're not going to have the right tools or something, you're going to forget something at home. This job is a pretty good ways away from our shop, so I want to make sure that whenever it leaves here, that it is ready to stick on the wall and screw down and come back and get another load. I don't want to get there and run into all kind of problems and stuff like that and have to do stuff that I should have done here that is a lot quicker doing here than on the job site. So we're going to be putting on these drawer fronts, and I'm going to show you how we do that. We're doing these a little bit different than normal just because I want the spacing on these things to be a certain amount. And so what I did was I cut a couple spacers like this. This is a 1/4 inch domestic plywood. It's got an MDF core in it. You can see it right there. It's a really stable product. That's what the core of our doors are, and the core of our drawers is this 1/4 inch domestic with an MDF core. It's real solid. You don't get a whole lot of streaking. A lot of 1/4 inch plywood, you'll get like there's grooves in it or something, and like where things have they rolled the plies out and they kind of split and all this stuff, and you end up with doing a lot of filling. You're going to end up using your primer to stack up the paint so that you can sand all that stuff out. Basically like doing body work but with cabinets, and it's just really aggravating. So using this domestic product with the MDF core, you don't get that. And whenever you spray it, it's nice and beautiful, and you get the wood grain look. I don't use MDF, like only MDF, just because you don't get that wood grain look whenever you spray it, and I really like to see the wood grain because cabinets are wood, and you want to know it. So anyways, doing what we're doing is really simple. The first thing you want to do is get these bottom ones set. So I've got this bottom one and this bottom one set, and I've got a 1/4 inch gap in between them right here. And so that's going to separate my middle and bottom drawer. So you can see I'll pull this out. And so we got a really nice drawer here, got a really nice drawer here, and it's all soft close. Of course it is. That's the only way we do it. So what you want to do is check all this stuff before you get in there and start assembling, because if you need to make an adjustment, now's the time to do it. Your bottom one is going to determine how you end up at the top. If you end up, you don't want your drawer front to be above the top, you want it to be down below it, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. It just kind of depends on what your allowance is right here. I've allowed about 3/8 of an inch right here at the top, because it just, with the countertop on it and everything, you're going to get a little shadow line, and it'll make it look like it's 1/4, even though it's a little bit fat of it. It's going to make it look like the rest of them do. So you kind of have to take all this stuff into account of how it's going to look whenever you get the finished product in there. And if it doesn't look exactly right now, it may be because you don't have your countertop on or something that you planned on later. So always keep that stuff in mind of what you've got planned as far as finishing it down the road. So we're going to start installing these, and I'm going to show you the screws that we use to do this. I've got a 1-inch. It's a really sharp point square drive. See if I can focus in on it. It's a number 2 square. It's really sharp, so whenever you start in, it's going to go ahead and grab into that wood and go right down in there, and it's going to eliminate a lot of tear out because it is so sharp. And it's not just going to sit there and spin and spin and spin trying to get started. It doesn't take much to get it going. And the other one we're using is this big washer head. It's a Phillips head, so I've got 2 drills. I've got my 2 pistol grip Bosches, which these are really awesome. They're 12 volt. They're pretty light. They're compact, so you can I mean, you can see I can basically cover it up with my hand. So it's a compact drill, gets in these tight spots. Some of these drawers are kind, you know, you can get some that are narrow on vanities and stuff like that. These right here are fairly wide and fairly deep because this is on an island, and we need as much storage as we can get in this thing. And we do have a sink right here, so we got a sink in the island. We got an open compartment down here, and then of course we've got our 6 drawers and then finished panels on the other side. This is the Newburyport Blue. Looks awesome. So got my drill, and then I've got my other drill here set up with a square drive. We use Milwaukee bits. I don't know if you can see, but yep. So we use the Milwaukee that comes with the pack out kit, so you can buy all the drill bits in with the pack out. And we did that because it locks right in our workbench in there. And I got 2 sets of them, one for me and one for my dad, so that if he needs them, he can come in there and pop them out and take them over and use them, bring them back and pop them back in. Because the biggest problem that most people have around the shop is losing drill bits. You know, so that pack out system really helps to make sure that you take all these back out, put them right back where you got them from. So if you're looking to invest in some pack out, I really highly suggest it. Because it is some fantastic stuff for doing any kind of storage that you need in the shop, outside the shop. We've got it loaded up in our trailers, and everything just locks right in place, and I don't have to worry about stuff sliding around and slinging around whenever I'm taking cabinets to the job site. So let's get this started. Now, the first thing I did was I took this drawer box out, because you're going to need to access underneath this side. So you got to have this drawer box removed so that you can get into the back side of this drawer box right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure we got enough room here to work. So this is my middle drawer cover. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my spacer right there and keep some pressure down so that it doesn't flip out. And you know, this side over here, just lift it up, stick that spacer in. You always want to use 2 spacers, because if your drawer is just a little bit out of alignment or something like that, this right here will keep it perfectly in line. If you put one, just say in the center, if you do it like this and you're not paying attention, that thing gets to rocking like this right here, then you're going to end up with uneven reveals, and you really don't want that. You don't want to get done with it and say, you know, you got to go back and take them all off and start over. So first thing I'm going to do is put my spacers in there where they need to be, just like that. And you want to leave it where you can see the end, because I've got to line this up perfectly right here, because when my door hits in here, I'm going to have about a 1/4 inch gap between my doors and my drawer front, and if I don't have that gap, we're going to have a problem. And I've already checked it and I know it works, so you know, we're good to go. But what I want to do is I want to put this on here, and I want to come over on the top side so I can see. Get this side right here perfectly even. You want it flush all the way down right there. Look down it, touch it, whatever you have to do. And then what you want to do is you want to put your knees on it like this and hold it in there nice and tight. You're going to put a screw in the top of the drawer box into the face frame, making sure that it goes into the frame and not into your 1/4 inch inset. So you're going to stay right close to the top. And so I did that with my washer head screws because I like them a little bit better on this top side, so I use my washer heads on the top side. Now I'm going to take the smaller screws. They're 1 inch, they got a smaller head on them, but they'll really pull in. And so I'm going to go into the side of the drawer box and go into the back side of the drawer front. All right, and then what you want to do is just pull your spacers out. They'll slide right out. And make sure before you use those spacers that you sand them down where they're nice and smooth. Sand them down 220 grit, knock any rough edges off, and that way they'll slide in and out without scratching your drawer boxes and all that, because you don't want to scratch all your faces up. You want them to look nice and pristine whenever you get them on the job site. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out so you can see how I fasten this thing in there. And you can see that it's on there really good. So I released it, push those back in. I'm going to see if I can get it up here where you can see what I did. So you can see there's one screw there, and then there's one down here, and there's one right there. Now you can space them far apart because remember, you're going to have the pulls and everything that go on this, so your pull is also going to help hold this all together. So but make sure that it's screwed in there really good so it makes it through installation and makes it through the ride to the job site. And then whenever you get there, you can put all your pulls on there, and that gives you a little bit of extra insurance holding this on, because you've got 2 points of contact holding that stuff together, and it'll really put the squeeze on this thing and make it stay. But these screws right here will stay in there, they're not going to come out. But just make sure you use the appropriate size. I'm going through 1/2 and 3/4, so I got about 1 1/4 to 1 5/16. It just kind of varies a little bit. And so I got a 1-inch screw. Make sure that you double check your screw lengths, because you don't want these things popping through the face, because then it's going to be to take it back in the paint room, Bondo, prime, sand, prime, and I mean, it's just, you know, it's a relentless process if you mess one of these up, because it takes just as long to fix one as it does to finish 20. So, you know, just kind of keep that in mind for time purposes. Double check everything that you're doing so you minimize mistakes. That's the biggest thing I can tell you about running a cabinet shop, is minimize mistakes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the top one in, and I can show you how all these reveals work together and how nice it looks, and it's really clean whenever we get done with it. So let's stick this top one back in and we'll be ready to roll. So here's the drawer that I took out. I'm going to put it back in there. And what I like to do is I like to have all my material right here ready to roll, so I'm not looking for everything, and it's going to be right here. And so I got my other front right here, and I've double checked it. Put my spacer there, put my spacer there, even up the sides just like that. Put some pressure against it so it doesn't roll back out on you. Just put that washer head screw in the top. All right, so now we got that done. I can pull these spacers out, and you can see how nice and tight these joints are right here. There's only a 1/4 inch in between them, and it looks really nice and sleek. You're not going to see a whole lot of the face frame on these, which is sad because we spend a lot of time finishing our face frames, but you're not going to see them until everything's open. But, you know, that's what the customer wanted. Give the people what they want. I mean, that's all you can do. So, you know, I'm not really that concerned that you can't see the face frame. Because the drawer fronts are so nice, and we've got some beautiful hardware that's going on this thing. I do have the door ready, and so I'm going to show you how we do that, because you have to kind of offset some measurements here, because I want the same measurement across this to reveal on that, because when my false front comes on here, I want it to line up perfectly with this right here. So show you how we do that real quick, and how we check our measurements and deduct and add and all that, and I'll just show you how we do that. So this is my finished door, and this is the 1 1/4 overlay hinge. You can see how it's got, you know, it's a lot different than the 1/2 inch overlay, but it's an 1 1/4 back from the edge right here. So that's what 1.25 inches means. It means it's 1.25 inches back, and this part of the door will stick over the face frame 1.25 inches. Now the way this one is that the hinge side is 1.25 inches, but the other side is only 7/8. So whenever I figured this up, I had to add 1.25 inches plus 7/8 to this front. So my whole door ended up being 2 1/8 inches larger than what my opening is on the width. Because I want to make sure that I've got that 1/4 inch gap on this side, and it doesn't really matter what my reveal does here, but it matters what it does here. So you make sure that whenever you're doing this stuff, that your math is mathing and everything is going to line up like it's supposed to. Double check everything. You don't want to get here assembling, finished painted, and figure out that you got a problem, because then it's going to be to start redoing stuff. I have already double checked this to make sure. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that right there, and be careful with all this stuff because it is finished. And so I'm going to pull this drawer out, and I'm going to mark the top of this drawer right here, and I'm going to pull this drawer out, and I know exactly where that mark is. So I'm going to take it's better to do this with a stick ruler so you're not flexing on the end and you can read it a little bit better. I'm going to put it on that mark and see that that is 7/8 of an inch up right there. So I know that my door's got to stick up 7/8 of an inch. So now what I'm going to do is get my door back over here. Now I'm going to measure how far it is from this edge of the door to that part of my hinge. And I know that it's 2 5/8 because that's how I got my machine set. So at 2 5/8, it's got to raise up 7/8 of an inch. So I've got to subtract 7/8 of an inch from this, and that's going to give me 1 3/4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here and measure down 1 3/4 inches and just put me a little mark right there, because I know that's where my hinge has got to be. And then put the door up there and double check it, and it looks right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a couple hinge screws. And this is another cool thing about the Milwaukee pack-out system, is you get these really cool little screw drawers that you can take with you. You take them out, take them anywhere you need to, fill them up with your screws, and they're all right there handy when you need them. So those are my square drives. All right, these hinges, so you've got a little bit over 3/4 of an inch. You can see on this hinge, that part goes against the frame, and there's a little pin right there that goes on the back side of the face frame. Now what it's going to do is, some of these, like my material is 13/16 of an inch thick, so it's not 3/4. So this thing, you're going to want to hook the back and then bring the front to it, because it'll bend these over a little bit, and you want that thing in there nice and tight. So make sure that you put the pin over the back and then bring the hinge around to the front, because if you don't, it's not really going to spring the hinge, but it's not going to allow it to sit flush against your frame, and then you're going to end up with your door kicked out, and there's no way to readjust that. So just make sure that thing's hooked in nice and tight. So I'm going to put the top of my hinge on my mark, and it only takes 1 screw per hinge on this thing, so they're really nice. And make sure to use a really good magnetic bit, so that you can keep your screws on the bit. It makes it a lot easier. So I've got it all hooked. Now I'll show you something really cool about these hinges, which you probably already know if you do hinges, but this is for the guys that may not know these tricks. But make sure whenever you buy hinges like this, I've got a press tool on my hinge board machine, so I can actually press these in. I don't ever use it because if you accidentally, you know, try to press it in there and don't put your press down, you'll end up hitting your drill bits and ruin them. So we buy them, and it's already got the little anchors in it and everything, and we put them on a padded surface. And I use a dead blow hammer. This is a Craftsman 23 ounce dead blow hammer, and it's a smooth edge right here, and it's soft kind of, so you're not going to end up damaging this or your finished product. So you don't have to really hit it very hard, just pat pat and it's done. These are all soft close hinges, and you can see that it is working its way down. With a little bit of weight, it does a little bit better. But these are some really cool hinges. They're made by Revente, and I've used them all the time and never had a problem with them, and they're great. So they do have three-way adjustment, which means whenever you put this drawer on here, you got XYZ axis control over a little bit, how, you know, adjusting these things to make them look right. You go up and down, left and right, and in and out. So you got three-dimensional adjustment, so it makes it really easy to put these on and make adjustments on your doors to make sure that if you got two coming together, or if you got a situation like this where I got a door that's got to line up with a drawer front, this has got to come up just a little bit, so I'll be able to utilize this for just moving it up and down, and I don't have to unscrew screws or anything like that. They're really simple to adjust. I have my screwdriver. So it's just with a Phillips screwdriver, very simple. So this screw right here controls side to side like this. So if it's too close over there, I can bring it back, or if it's too close on this side, I can take it back that way. So that's a really cool feature, and you only do that when it's open. So if it's a little close, open it up, slide it back or slide it forward, whichever way you want to do, and you're just right. So this screw right here, it controls in and out. So when you open your door like this, if it's dragging back here, then you can use that screw to bring it away from your face frame, and that way you're not scratching all that, putting it all in a bind and springing your hinge where it doesn't need to be. And the last screw, of course, is up and down. So if, you know, like over here, I need to bring it up, so I'm going to adjust that screw. Typically, you know, it takes just a minute tweak to get everything just right. When you got two doors, it's a little bit easier because you got twice the amount of adjustment, because you got two different sets of hinges. So you got double the adjustment over one. So keep that in mind when you're doing this stuff, to make sure, first of all, that your measurements are right, and that you do have a little bit of wiggle room in there, you know, just in case you need to adjust something, because you don't want it to be so tight that because with these things right here, you can bring them together and you can make them work. You don't want it to be so tight that you have zero adjustment, because once you run out of adjustment, man, that's it. You don't want to be in there trying to plane doors off and get them to work. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pick this door up. I got to go up about a 1/16 of an inch or so. So I'm going to adjust that, and then I'm going to check my back to make sure I'm opening good. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit. And so whenever you're doing this, you're going to have bump stops on the opposing side of the hinge. So over here where your pull is, you have a bump stop there, and it's going to make the door stick out about 1/4 of an inch. So you want to keep that in mind when you're adjusting this, that you can have it out that far, and that way your door is perfectly level all the way across. Easy peasy. Got to go up just a fuzz more, and I'll show you why this is so important in just a minute. Alright, so we are just right. Now the next thing I want to do is make sure that over here on my edge that I'm showing the same margin all the way up, because I want this right here to be level. Now another way you can do that, of course, is to measure it. So if you want to measure it, you're going to measure all the way to the finished top of the cabinet. And I am 8 9/16 there. And I'm a little bit over 8 9/16 there. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to back my door off at the top and bring the bottom over, and whenever you do that, it'll kick this side up. So if you run out of up adjustment, you can do it with the side adjustment. You just have to kick it a little bit. So I'm gonna bring my bottom over and take my top away, and let's check and see what I did there. So I'm at 8.5, and I'm at 8 9/16. So I'm gonna have to bring this side down just a little bit. So I'm gonna back this one away because I am a little bit close at the bottom. So I back that away. Back away just a bit more. Right there. That should be getting me close. Now this is the tedious part because you want this to be right, so whenever you put this drawer front on up here, that it is dead on. And that's 8 9/16, and that's 8 9/16, so we're good. Now, I'm gonna get my little drawer front, be back in just a minute. All right, and so this is my little front. It's gonna cover it where the sink is. Put it in there and double check, showing a good margin. Everything's looking pretty. And I'm gonna put my spacer just like that, and we're good to go. Everything lines up perfect. And I'll show you the screws that I use for that because they're a little bit different. So this is a 2-inch. It's got a number 15 Torx drive on it, and I got my number 15 Torx drive right here. And so I've got to go through 3/4 and 3/4, and then I've got 3/4 on my face front. So I've got 2 1/4 inches that I can go through, and so I've got 2-inch screws. Now you want to be real careful when you're doing this because you don't want to you know, overspin your screw and wring your hole out. You want it to be in there nice and tight, and you want it to be pretty, and you want it to look like it's supposed to. So let's get those stuck in there, and I think that'll be about it. Same deal. You want to line up this and make sure it's good and flush. Look down this side and make sure it's good and flush. Look at all your reveals. They look nice and neat like they're supposed to. Grab your own drill bit. That's what happens when you got so many drill bits hanging around your assembly area, because it takes all kind of different ones to get everything connected. So now I've got the right one. There's my number 15, and we'll continue with that and that. Flush the side out. You want to make sure you keep pressure on these things down and in, because you don't want to lose your gap here, and you don't want it to pick up any. So always be, you know, you got to look at everything that's going on at one time. again, with this, you want to make sure you're looking that your screw is going in the right spot and not going through the center of the door, because these will go through it if you get in that center part. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Remove my spacers here, and this island is just about ready to go. I got to put these two on right here, but you know, I bring in here a little bit closer so you can see how tight these reveals are and how nice that looks. It's a really cool finished look on these cabinets. Makes them look a little bit more contemporary. This is going in a coastal house, so you know, they kind of wanted to get along to the coastal contemporary side, and so we just made those few adjustments on our measurements and made sure that we were able to give them that look. So never confine yourself to one style. You know, you want to figure out your style and figure out the best way to do something, but always be willing to, you know, change if you need to. If you need to do something a little bit different than usual, you know, if you want to quit, like we do side mount drawer guides. If somebody wants under mount, we can do that. But never put yourself in a position where you can't change and you can't adjust what you're doing, because that's going to put you in a market that may drive you out of business. So just kind of keep that in mind, and just never say no. If somebody asks you if you can do something out of wood, just say, yeah, of course I can. You're a professional woodworker. You should be able to do just about anything. And if you can't, you know, use the knowledge that you have from previous projects to push you along and help you learn something new. And that's how we built Armor of God Woodworks, is trying new stuff and a lot of things that we may have been uncomfortable with, but once we got into it, we figured it out and you know, made a pretty good business out of it. So just kind of keep that in mind. Never let anybody tell you you can't do something, because you can. You got the ability up here to make it happen. If you got any woodworking knowledge at all, you got the ability in your mind to make anything work. I've got some cool ideas about some stuff that I want to do in the future if I could ever get some free time to do it. Right now, man, we're blazing through the summer trying to just stay cool and trying to get these cabinets out the door and into their homes, and so we can get started on some new stuff. So anyways, it's been a great year. I appreciate you following along with Armor of God Woodworks. If you have not done yet, I would like for you to like my page and subscribe to it. Helps me, you know, think that people want to see more of what we're doing, and I'm here to help you. If you have any questions about anything we do, please leave me a comment. I'll answer you as quick as I can, and try to help you along with your project. You know, any knowledge that I know that I've got, I'll pass it right along to you. I want to help you. I want to help us all get better. That's what we're here for, is just to help everybody get better. If you have any questions about salvation, if you have any questions about Jesus Christ, comment, man. I love to talk about that subject. You know, one day I'll tell y'all where I was compared to where I am now, and you'll realize why it takes faith to live. It takes faith to live, faith in Jesus Christ. So anyways, leave your comments, like and subscribe to Armor of God Woodworks, and we'll catch you on the next one.